Another good question, but this time the truth would be a little more complicated to explain. I decided to tell him what I could of my story without scaring him off. One of my parents converted, but they both liked both the names. I paused before hitting send and added a final line. I am a Christian. That was one bit of my story I had no intention of skipping over. If it ended our conversation, so be it. It did not. He came straight back to me. Do you know about Islam? Oh, I've had some experience, but I'd like to ask you some questions about it. And maybe if you have any questions for me about Christianity, you could ask me. I was not surprised that he ignored my offer, but he started telling me about his life. His name was Mustafa. He was 37, and he was from a city in Pakistan I'd visited a few times. He was married with 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys, but he was not living with his family. Mustafa explained that he was actually living in Qatar, working with some friends on a startup. It must be hard to be separated from your wife and children like that, I wrote. Your kids are cute, by the way. But tell me, Mustafa, why didn't you put a picture of your wife up? Most people I know don't allow their wives to be on Facebook. And if ever they do, they don't let them share their own pictures. We are very strict about this. We would only ever let them put up pictures of their husband, other family, or places. Never of themselves. Nothing about his words surprised me, but his response reminded me so much of what it meant to be a Muslim woman in Pakistan. Back when I was growing up, there had been no Facebook or sharing of photos online, but the rules were just as strict. Almost every decision I ever faced was made for me by my father, and for almost 2 decades, I was a slave in so many senses of the word. That is why, whenever I got to the end of one of Mustafa's messages, I started to believe that he was precisely the person with whom God had planned for me to talk. Beneath his name, he would always write the words, Slave of Muhammad. Look, Jay, I said, pointing it out to John. I don't know that he's lost, but I do know that he's trapped. Maybe God's going to set him free. Over the next few days, Mustafa and I carried on trading messages with each other. I told him a bit about my family, about John and Amia, and about how in 2016 we had been granted asylum by the United States. I did not explain where we had been living before, or why we had been forced to leave in the first place, and Mustafa did not ask. I was glad about that. I wanted to tell him my full story one day, but not yet. He was happier talking about himself anyway. He told me about life in Qatar, and how he was loving his work, earning a good wage, and enjoying life. He did not seem to mind that his wife and 4 children were almost 2,000 miles away in Pakistan, or that he was only able to see them twice a year when he returned. I was interested in his wife, especially when Mustafa told me that she was 8 years younger than him, and that he had been 21 when they married. It saddened me, even though when I was growing up in Pakistan, it wasn't at all unusual for a 13-year-old girl to be married off. The way he described her life was familiar, too. She was living with his family, taking care of the kids, doing chores, and not working or studying. It was not difficult for me to imagine what her life was like. I imagined her living as a second-class citizen in her mother-in-law's house, an unpaid extra servant with almost no freedom or rights. I had known so many people like this when I was in Pakistan that I was only ever surprised when I met someone who was treated well. The more Mustafa told me about his wife, the worse I felt, even though he was happy to boast to me about how much he was earning each month in Qatar. $2,500. He told me that he only ever sent $200 back to his wife, and that he had never told her what his actual salary was. Why? I asked. I am saving up for my future wives. At first, I did not know how to respond. Again, this arrangement was not unusual. I had known many women who had been forced to share their husbands with other wives, but it still made me sad. After we had been married for 2 months,